G'day brewers, today we're going to dial in my Hazy IPA recipe. We've got a video with some excellent tips from Rockstar Brewers and we're going to take them on board and integrate them into our recipe design to hopefully make a killer Hazy IPA recipe. Let's do it.
If you're still chasing that explosive wow factor in your hazy IPAs, but they're turning out looking like muddy dishwater, or if that incredible hop aroma just vanishes after a week, it's because you've been focusing on all the wrong things. This is the blueprint that'll unlock that stable, juicy, explosive hop character you've been chasing.
All right, sounds good. Let's have a look at what these 5 keys are.
So let's get into the first secret, the one that most brewers completely overlook: your water chemistry. Your water is your canvas, not just an ingredient. All right, this is where a lot of brewers just completely drop the ball. Brewers get so laser focused on the hops and the grains that they treat their water as if it's just something that comes out of a tap. This is the single biggest mistake that you can make with this style. Think of your water not as an ingredient, but as the canvas you're about to paint on. If that canvas is garbage, I don't care how good your paints are, the final painting is going to be compromised. Here's what you need to do. You have to take complete control of your water chemistry. Your main target is the sulfate to chloride ratio. For a Rockstar level hazy IPA, you need to slam the scale in favor of chloride. A 0.5 or even a 0.3 ratio of sulfate to chloride is a great place to start.
Okay, so we're going to open up Brewing water and try and hit our mineral additions to get that 0.5 ratio between the sulfate and the chloride. In other words, we want twice as much chloride as we do sulfate. 2 grams. All right, so now we've got 204 parts per million of chloride, 100 parts per million of sulfate. That's pretty close to that 0.5 ratio that Hendo's talking about. We've got a calcium concentration of 146 parts per million, which is very good. That'll give us plenty of calcium to for the yeast to do its fermentation and drop out effectively. All right, so let's have a look at the second secret to unlocking a killer hazy IPA.
Now the next secret is modern grist engineering. You got to engineer the haze and the mouthfeel. You have to build a grist that's loaded with haze positive proteins. This means a solid chunk of your grain build, typically around 20 to 30%, needs to be high protein adjuncts like flaked oats, flaked wheat, and malted wheat. And for a secret weapon, consider something like chit malt. It's under-modified, so it's packed full of protein. Here's why it works. That beautiful, stable haze isn't just yeast. It's a complex matrix of proteins from your grain, locking arms with polyphenols from your hops. And so you need to pick your adjuncts properly. Oats, for instance. Flaked oats are your friend for mouthfeel. They're full of beta-glucans, which add viscosity, making the beer feel richer and creamier. And they also bring proteins to the party, which help build haze structure. Wheat is the real protein powerhouse, though. It's packed with the specific types of proteins that are essential for creating a stable, long-lasting haze when they bind with the hop polyphenols. Many brewers find that malted wheat gives a smooth, more stable haze than raw wheat, but for me, I personally like flaked wheat. And then there's this trick that I've seen some of the best hazy brewers use: chit malt. It's an under-modified malt that's basically a protein bomb. It can give you incredible head retention and adds another layer of stability to your haze. A brewery I know in Victoria was struggling with their haze dropping clear, so they added about 5% chit malt to their grist and then boom, permanent haze. Beautiful haze that wouldn't quit. And finally, your mash matters. A high mash temp, say around 67 to 69 degrees Celsius, that's 152 to 156 in freedom units, leaves more unfermentable sugars behind, which means more body and a touch of sweetness. You're not just following a recipe, you're the architect of your beer's texture and appearance.
Okay, back to our grist and our brewing chemistry. So what I was going to use was Hoppy Day's Super Blend. I used that in an earlier video and I really liked it in the American Pale Ale. I like the malt sweetness, the color it gives, and head retention was great. So I gave it a 5 star. I want to use that again. I went out and bought a sack of it. And I think this will give us a lot of malt character for a hazy IPA. Hazy, the malt character is meant to take a back seat and let the hops shine through. We'll see how this works as a canvas, but I like it and I think I'll enjoy the beer it makes in the end. Now, Hendo's talking about 30% hazy type inducing malt. So I'm going to put in 1 kilo of Gladfield wheat. He mentioned that's got a lot of haze positive proteins to help with the haze, so we're going to do that. Let's also add some chit malt. I've used that in the past and it's excellent. Let's go for 1 kilo to start with and see where that brings us in. All right, and we're going to knock this down because we're going to need less and less the more of these adjuncts we add. Now, also got to bear in mind that the Hoppy Days Super Blend has actually got some chit malt in it, 3% chit malt. And so if we're adding 11%, we might be bumping up closer to 15% in the chit malt. Oh, what's the maths on that? 3 times 7, 7 threes are 21. Oh, I can't do the maths on it. We're going to add some oats. The problem with oats is oats add a lot of metal compounds, which are a problem for oxidation later on down the track. So the more oats you add to the grist, because it's under modified, the more of these metals are in the grist, the more oxidation you're likely to have. So you put this combination of oats with your hops, you're going to get this problem that people get with hazies, this brown oxidized mess. So I'm going to leave some oats out. Oh, you know what? I'll add some malted oats. What oats can we get from Gladfield? Big O, Nutty. I think we go for maybe the Big O oats. I'm going to go for the most neutral oats, not the big nutty flavors. I think that's going to offset what we're trying to do here. Let's just put in 500 grams of those. And look, I think we could drop our base malt down a bit more. So that puts us in the middle of the range with our base malt, about 7.5% ABV, 1 kilo. All right, so 20 to 30%. Let's shoot for about 25%. And let's start with our calculator. So the Super Blend has 3%. So 77.8% of our grist multiplied by 3% divided by 100%. So the chit malt is going to be 2.334% of our total grist. Then we'll add on the 11.1% of the extra chit malt plus 5.6% of oats plus 5.6% of wheat malt brings us to 24.63. That's right bang in the middle of our 20 to 30% ratio. So let's run with that and see how that goes. And mash temperature, we're going to have a high mash temperature. So the reason I was going to go for 65 degrees to start with is because I'm going to get hop creep anyway with all the dry hop going in here. But Hendo says make it higher for a bigger, thicker mouthfeel. Let's Let's sub this out for the high mash temp, 70%. How does this affect our volumes? Oh, it gives us a better final gravity. Now, we're probably not going to end up there. We're probably going to end up lower because we're going to get hop creep. That those dextrins in the wort are going to get eaten up and turned into simple sugars. Still puts us in the 7% range for our hazy, but a lot more mouthfeel. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, let's move on to secret number 3.
And the next secret, intelligent hopping. Think biotransformation and temperature control. So now we get to the star of the show, the hops. But here's the hard truth, the next secret, creating that explosive hop aroma that isn't about using more hops, it's about using them smarter. The best hazy IPAs out there use a multi-layered, temperature-aware hopping plan designed to unlock flavours through smart chemistry and biology. You need a cooler whirlpool and a smart 2-stage dry hop. One charge goes in during active fermentation, about 3/4 of the way through fermentation, and the second goes in right at terminal gravity just as a final polish. Firstly, the whirlpool. The days of really hot whirlpools at 95 degrees Celsius are over for this style. High heat rips a lot of bitterness out of those hops and flashes off the most delicate, beautiful aromas. By dropping your whirlpool temperature to about 75 to 85 degrees Celsius, that's about 167 to 185, you get all the amazing flavour and aroma compounds from your hops with a fraction of the harsh bitterness. It's a total game changer. Next, dry hopping. A 2-stage attack is key. DDH is king in this style. The first one is going to be your biotransformation hop. You add this charge after peak fermentation, typically about 5 or 6 days in. This is where the real magic happens. Your yeast has enzymes that can actually interact with flavourless compounds in the hops, such as bound thiols and glycosides, to transform them into incredibly potent fruity new aromas. It creates those complex, juicy notes of citrus, passion fruit, and guava that you simply can't get any other way. And don't fall into the trap of adding your biotransformation dry hop too early. Longer contact time can extract those gross, grassy, vegetal aroma and flavours from your hops, and your haze will also suffer. Wait, and you will be rewarded. And then the second dry hop charge usually goes in after the beer hits its final gravity. The fermentation is done, so there's no CO2 scrubbing away all that goodness. This charge is all about that fresh, in-your-face aromatic punch. It's the top note, that final polish. But even with the strategic dry hopping plan, you still have to manage that vegetal hop material. Hop burn is that harsh, astringent taste of tiny hop particles suspended in your beer. To fight this, you need a solid separation plan. About 24 to 36 hours after each dry hop charge, dump the settled hops from the cone out of your fermenter. This gets a ton of that harsh green matter out. And before you package, give the beer plenty of time to settle. Hopping this style is all about being strategic. It's not just throwing pellets at the problem.
Okay, so let's open up Brewfather and have a look at our hops and apply what we've just learnt. Okay, so originally for this brew, I have selected a small bittering charge at 60 minutes of 10 grams of Citra, 20 grams of Citra at 30 minutes, and then some aroma hops, 50 grams and 50 grams each of Citra and Cascade. I've selected Cascade because I like the grapefruit punch that Cascade can give, but it's got a lot of bound thiols. So my theory is by putting it in the hop stand or whirlpool, I'm going to be able to liberate a lot of that grapefruit punch. And also Citra, a lot of those citrusy notes and thiols in the Citra also. Now I used to do my hop stand here at 95 degrees, and my reasoning for that was that I was going to get rid of a lot of those resinous compounds and leave behind those citrusy notes. But after what Hendo says, we're going to change that. We'll drop this down to 75 degrees. Hendo said 70 to 80 degrees. So let's go with 75. I guess that'll make this hop stand a bit more like, oh, and look at my IBUs have dropped off with that. So that'll make this hop stand a little bit more like hop dipping. It's not quite the hot whirlpool temperatures, but it's a much milder temperature that won't strip out most of those flavors. Then I've got a combination of Citra, Nelson, and El Dorado, and I'll just show you why I've chosen those hops. I put them in this Hop Maverick tool here. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see that a bit better. So there's the descriptors of citrus, grapefruit, peach, melon, lime, floral, gooseberry. El Dorado's got this interesting watermelon and candy flavor, and stone fruit. And Nelson's known for its white wine, gooseberry type flavors. So I like that idea of those flavors, and I want to put them together in my hazy, and so I put them in this Hop Maverick tool to see what the flavors will look like when they're all overlaid with each other. So we've got, what is it? Citra is in the red, Nelson is in the blue, and the green is El Dorado. And as you can see, Citra is punching hard towards citrus. All three of them are tropical type components to them. And Nelson's going hard in this berry direction also. And hopefully I'm overlaying a bit more tropical with my Cascade if we can eke out some grapefruit flavors out of that. So that's why I've chosen those three hops, especially for my dry hop. Now, after what Hendo said, talking about double dry hop being king and being helpful for this hop style, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to change these to half my dry hop at High Krausen, and the other half I will do at full Krausen. Not full Krausen, sorry. Not full. The other half of the dry hop I'll do at terminal gravity once we've reached that. So let's add cryo is what I'm using. I'm thinking that this will roughly be equivalent. When I say 25 grams of El Dorado, I'm thinking that's going to be close to the equivalent of 50 grams of the T90 pellets, which I'm using for Savon and Citra. So I'm guessing they're kind of equal in what I'm putting in. I don't know. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below, but that's the way I think of it. And so that's my amended hop schedule. All right, let's have a look at the next secret.
Now, let's get to the next secret. The yeast is your flavor engine. You can nail the water, the grist, and the hops, but if you pick the wrong yeast, you're dead in the water straight from the start. This secret is about realizing that for a New England IPA, your yeast isn't just a supporting actor, it's the lead co-star. It's an active flavor engine that creates the juice and drives the magic of biotransformation. You have to use haze positive yeast known for low flocculation, high ester production, and good biotransformation properties. Of course, none of this works if your yeast is stressed. Pitch the right amount of yeast, give it the right temperature, and use the right nutrients. And for the love of God, please don't pressure ferment your hazy unless you like hop volcanoes when you dry hop. Your yeast is the engine. Choose it wisely and treat it right.
Okay, so let me talk about the yeast I've chosen for this beer and why I've chosen it. Yes, this is the yeast I've chosen, Lallemand Pomona, because Lalbrew Pomona is a hybrid yeast that was selected for flavor and fermentation performance in hoppy beers. Named after the goddess of fruit trees, Lalbrew Pomona produces a unique, juicy profile with notes of peach, citrus, and tropical fruits. So it sounds like the yeast is producing this. The strain was developed by our partner Escarpment Labs in Canada using advanced yeast breeding and adaptive laboratory evolution in high ABV and highly hopped IPA fermentations. The result is a fruity, stress-tolerant, and robust strain that enhances biotransformation and haze for modern IPA styles. So based on what Hendo has said, this sounds like the sort of yeast we want to use. One that I've had a lot of success with in the past is Verdant from Lallemand, which has got nice biotransformation. It's also got good haze production. But apparently, this Pomona yeast has used this hybrid breeding to maximize those attributes. So we're going to give it a go and see how it goes. Liquid yeast, people talk about London L3, London Fog, but liquid yeasts are really cumbersome and annoying for us here in Australia. Dry yeast are much more accessible and much more usable for us. So I'm going to give a go this Pomona and see how it turns out. Hopefully it does all the things that it's promised. Okay, let's jump on to secret number 5.
Now we need to avoid the cold side pitfalls. Congratulations, you've done it. You've brewed a masterpiece. It's in the tank, looking and tasting perfect. You're almost at the finish line, and this is where more amazing hazy IPAs die than anywhere else. The next secret is a fanatical, obsessive control over your cold side. It's a trinity: kill oxygen, manage your beer pH, and control hop creep. The beer that was brilliant gold in the tank turns a brown cardboard flavoured mess in a week after you package it, or it becomes a gusher in the can and the flavour falls off a cliff. Here's what you got to do. You got to adopt a zero tolerance policy for oxygen. Nail your final beer pH and have a plan to deal with hop creep. Dissolved oxygen is the enemy. Hazy IPAs are the most oxygen sensitive beers on the planet. Dissolved oxygen is a serial killer. It murders your hop aroma and it replaces it with the taste of wet cardboard. It turns your beautiful beer brown, just like when you cut an apple in half and leave it on the kitchen bench. We're talking parts per billion of dissolved oxygen doing irreversible damage.
If you want to stop your hazy IPA turning into a brown cardboard flavoured mess, then click on this video, which discusses my protocol for oxygen-free packaging of homebrew beer.